The truth behind the 50%. Tariff. What to expect. The truth behind the 50%. Tariff. What to expect. In recent months, the announcement of a possible 50% tariff on imported goods has sent shockwaves through global markets. Supporters hail it as a bold move to protect domestic industries, while critics warn it could ignite a new wave of economic instability. But what's the real story behind this tariff? And what can we truly expect in the months ahead? At its core, a tariff is a tax imposed on imported products, designed to make foreign goods more expensive and encourage consumers to buy local alternatives. Proponents of the 50% tariff argue that it will 1. Protect domestic manufacturing by discouraging cheap imports. 2. Create local jobs by making homegrown production more competitive. 3. Reduce trade deficits, especially with countries accused of unfair trade practices like currency manipulation or state subsidies. The argument sounds patriotic, a promise to bring production back home. But the reality is far more complex. While tariffs may sound like a punishment for foreign companies, they often end up hurting consumers the most. When importers face higher costs, they pass those costs down the chain, to retailers, and eventually to everyday buyers. That means a 50% tariff could lead to higher prices on essential goods like electronics, automobiles, machinery, and even food items. Increased inflation, as businesses adjust prices to maintain profit margins. Lower purchasing power, hitting middle and lower-income families hardest. In short, the price of protectionism is usually paid not in political capital, but in grocery stores, showrooms, and households across the country. Trade doesn't exist in isolation, it's an interconnected web. A massive 50% tariff by one major economy could trigger retaliatory measures from others. Countries affected by this policy could respond by imposing their own tariffs on exported goods, reducing imports from the imposing country, redirecting trade alliances toward friendlier markets. Such retaliation can hurt exporters, particularly farmers, technology companies, and automobile manufacturers who rely heavily on global demand. A trade war might strengthen one sector temporarily, but it weakens the entire system in the long run. Let's be clear, tariffs aren't just about economics, they're also about politics. A 50% tariff sends a message of strength, independence, and nationalism, powerful themes for political campaigns. But beneath that message lies a question. Is this move about genuine economic reform, or about short-term political gain? If history is any guide, tariffs often appear in election years, used as a rallying cry to win voter sentiment. Yet, once the political dust settles, the long-term economic consequences remain: slower growth, supply chain disruptions, and higher prices for citizens. If implemented, the 50% tariff will reshape global trade patterns dramatically. Here's what we can expect. 1. Short-term boost for local producers who benefit from reduced competition. 2. Immediate price hikes for imported goods and related industries. 3. Rising inflation, especially in sectors dependent on imports. 4. Tensions with major trading partners, possibly leading to a new trade war. 5. Pressure on central banks as they balance inflation control with growth stability. Ultimately, while the tariff might offer short-term political and industrial benefits, the economic costs are likely to outweigh the rewards if sustained over time. The truth behind the 50% tariff isn't about protecting one country. It's about testing the limits of globalization itself. In a world where economies are deeply intertwined, building walls around trade might seem like protection. But in reality, it can isolate growth, burden consumers, and strain international relations. History has shown that prosperity doesn't come from isolation, but from innovation, competitiveness, and cooperation. So before celebrating the promise of a 50% tariff, we must ask, are we protecting our industries, or just pricing ourselves out of the global market?